In today's video, I'm going to explain a new journal to you called the cash payment. What you remember from when we did the cash receipts journal is that every single time when the business makes a transaction, there must be a source document that proves that this transaction actually took place. Okay, so the source documents for the cash receipts journal was either duplicate receipts that the business kept, or the cash register roll, which is like the till slips that the business keeps from when they are selling things to customers or rendering services. But now, when we make payments, we've got a different type of source document. The source document for the CPJ is extremely old school, and to be honest, I am not sure why we teach it to you like this anymore. Okay, but what we work with is what they call a check. Okay, so the book says that the business has money in its bank account, we know that, and then a check is issued by the owner instructing the bank to pay the provider or the supplier the amount that is written on the check. Now, I want you to go and ask your parents if they've ever used a check before. Okay, before bank cards were such a big thing and online banking, people used to have a checkbook that's associated with their bank account, and a check looked something like this. Okay, so imagine this in the little horizontal booklet. Okay. If you look here, this is the actual check, this part. Okay, so this is just the bank's name. So if your mom or dad is with F&B, it would say F&B. Then this is the date of the transaction here. Okay. This is the person that you want to pay, or if it's a business, you write the business. Then you have to write out the words. Please ignore these A, N, B, J, H letters. It's just how the textbook explains things. Okay, but if you look here, you have to write out the amount that you want to pay in words to avoid fraud, because people could easily add another zero to your check. Okay, so you have to say how much you're going to pay in words, and you have to say only at the end so that no one can expand that amount. Then you also had to write the amount in numbers. Okay, and then you had to sign at the bottom here. And every check book was printed by the bank, and it had like a little punched number in it, and it had your account number on it as well. And then if you give this check to the supplier, so you tear it off, then your supplier takes the check, or the person that you paid, and they present the check to the bank. And then the bank uses that check as an instruction from you to pay the amount from your bank account number that was on the check to their bank account. Okay. And then what the business is left with is this little part, okay, on the left here. And that's what we call the check counterfoil. So this part stayed in the check booklet, and that is the business's proof that they made this transaction. You will see that on this part, you also have to write the date, and you have to write who you paid, what you paid for, and the amount. This is the amount. That was the balance before your transaction, and this is the balance after your transaction. Okay, so this check counterfoil is what we say is the source document for the CPJ, because then the accountant at the end of the month will take the checkbook and will go through all of these check counterfoils to record the transactions in the CPJ for the month. Okay, so I know it sounds crazy, and I know it sounds very old school, it is, but if you ever read the word issued a check, it must tell you that we are paying. Or if we ever ask you what is the document for the CPJ, it's the check counterfoil. Why? Because that's what the business has as proof. The business doesn't have the original check. The person that got paid has the original check. Okay, then the modern way of doing things is obviously that businesses use debit or credit cards to make electronic payments. They just swipe their card, or very often, especially for big amounts, businesses make electronic payments or EFTs to their suppliers. And then you will see proof of this on what we call the bank statement. So if the business gets their bank statement, which looks something like that, at the end of the month, there will be a list of all the transactions that they've made by swiping their cards or by making online payments. And then the accountant will sit with the bank statement and actually record all of the transactions in the CPJ or the CRJ, but all of the payments in the CPJ from there. Okay, so if we ever say we pay electronically, then the source document is a bank statement. But in Form 1, we focus mostly on the old school version, the check version. All payments are recorded in what we call the cash payments journal, or in short, the CPJ of the CPJ. You will see that it's actually very similar to the CRJ. Okay, so it looks like this. At the top, it has the heading that says Cash Payments Journal of the business, whoever the business is, for July 2020 or for the month and the year. And then the CPJ number is associated with the number of the month in the year. So in this case, July is the 7th month. That's why it's CPJ number 7. Then if you look at the columns, it has a document column. In this document column, you will now record the check numbers, only the check numbers. And all of the check numbers are like receipt numbers. They must follow on each other, okay, from the oldest to the newest check that you've issued. Then you've got the date column. Okay, so this is the day that the transaction took place. Once again, it must go in chronological order from the beginning of the month till the end of the month. Then the details column will be for the person or the company that we paid. And then you will see there's no analysis of receipts column. And that's the reason why the CPJ, in my opinion, is the easiest journal for you, because there's no weird till column. The first column that you have is the bank column. And every single amount, I want you to make a note for yourself, every single amount will be written in the bank column. So in every line, even if there are transactions on the same day, in every separate line, there will be an amount in the bank column. And then after the bank column, the amount must go to another account, very similar to the CRJ. So we say we took the money from our bank, but then we have to specify after the bank column what we use the money for. Okay, so there will be columns, and these columns will differ from company to company depending on what expenses or assets the company most often pay for or buy. Okay, so you will notice all of the CPJs look different. And then if there's a column for what we paid the money for, you write the money in the column, okay, the applicable column. If there is no column, then you write the amounts in sundry accounts, and here in details, you specify what we actually paid the money for. Okay, but let's the example on page 62 and 63 in your textbook so that you can understand better. Now, this is like the first part. It says PJ Potgieter is the owner of PJ Wholesalers and sells books to schools. Okay, so he sells books. He started recording transactions of his business on the 25th of July 2005. That should be a 2020. Okay, so the book just got their dates mixed up. This should be 2020. Then the first two transactions that they give to you are check counterfoils. Remember, that's what the business has left. So let's record the first one. It's on the 25th. It's to Walmart and it's for trading inventory. And then remember, the amount is where it says this check. So this check was for 3,750. And I hope you've noticed the check number here at the bottom, check number 27. So if we record this in the CPJ, it will be number 27. It was on the 25th of July. We paid Walmart. Where did we get the money to pay them from? From the bank. So it must go to bank. And what did we buy? On the check, it said we bought trading inventory. Luckily for us, there's a trading inventory column. So you write it in that column. Then the next transaction, okay, or the next check, this bottom one, was issued on the 26th of July to Ekurhuleni Municipality for water and electricity. And remember, we focus on this amount. Okay, so we paid 725 Rand for water and electricity. and it is check number 28. It must be number 28 because it must follow on the previous check number, which was 27. Okay, so if we record this, it will be check number 28. The date is the 26th of July. We are paying Ekurhuleni Municipality. We get the money from our bank, the 725 Rand, and we paid for water and electricity, but you will see there's no water and electricity column. There's a wages column, which is not the same, or a trading inventory column. Okay, so what do we do now? If it doesn't have a column, it goes to sundry accounts. So in sundry accounts, in the amounts column, you write 725 and you specify that it was for water and electricity. Then you will notice on page 63, the rest of the transactions are written out. Okay, like we did with the CRJ as well. This is usually how we give you transactions in their written form. So the next transaction was also on the 26th. Remember, these numbers are always the dates. It says the owner, PJ Potgieter, issues a check to Luthers Print or Luth's Print or whatever, I can't pronounce that, for books delivered. Okay, books delivered. Remember, this will be trading inventory because we've got a book store. So books is what we sell. So it's trading inventory and it's for 429 Rand. And then they say check numbers are in succession. In other words, check numbers follow on each other. That's why they didn't give you a check number. Okay, so you know it must be check number 29 because the previous one was 28. It's still on the 26th. So you don't write anything in the date column. Remember, if it's on the same date, you leave it blank. Who are we paying? That company that I can't pronounce. The value is 429 Rand, and because we have a bookstore and we bought new books, it's seen as trading inventory because it's the products that we trade with. The next transaction was on the 27th. It said paid RT supplies by check for boxes for 330 Rand. They didn't even give you a check number or anything. Okay, boxes will be used to put our books in so that we can deliver them to schools. So that will be packing materials or packaging materials. Okay, the check must follow on the previous check, so it's number 30. The date is the 27th. The company that we bought the boxes from is RT Supplies. We got the money from our bank, 330 Rand. And now we are paying for packing materials, but there's no packing materials column. There's a wages column, which is not the same, and a trading inventory column, which is also not the same. So it must go to sundry accounts. So write the 330 in the amounts column and say packing materials or packaging materials, same thing. Then on the 28th, we issued a check to VW Volkswagen for a second-hand delivery vehicle for 5,000 Rand. Okay, so now we're buying a vehicle. The check number will follow on the previous one, so it will be check number 31. It's on the 28th. We are paying VW Volkswagen 5,000 Rand from our bank account. Remember, every single amount must go to the bank column. And what are we buying? We are buying a vehicle, which is a fixed asset for the business. So it must go to the vehicles account. There's no vehicles column, so put it in sundry accounts and write vehicles. Then we're almost done. On the 31st, cashed a check. Okay, now I want to stand still here for a second. Cashed a check is like the old-fashioned way of saying that you are withdrawing money. Okay, so now the owner wanted cash. Okay, so what he did is on his check, he didn't write a company's name or a person that he will pay. He actually wrote cash. And then the owner took the check to the bank himself. And then the bank exchanged that check for cash. Okay, so it's basically, in modern terms, you would say withdraw money from your bank account at an ATM. Okay, but if we ever have a transaction where they say cash the check, make a note for yourself, then you always write cash in the details column, regardless of what we paid for. This is important because the Form 2s and Form 3s still struggle with this. Okay, so don't make the mistake. Be smart from the start. Okay, so cashed a check to pay wages, 3,000 Rand. Therefore, it will be check number 32 on the 31st. The details will be cash. Why? Because we cashed a check for 3,000 Rand. What did we pay? Wages. And there's a wages column, so you just write it in the wages column. Then you don't write anything here because you already used the amount twice. And then lastly, also on the 31st, PJ Potgieter cashes a check. Okay, so you will write cash for personal use. Drawings. Okay, so the moment when the owner takes money for himself, the owner is allowed to take money for himself. Okay? And if he does that, we call it drawings because he is drawing money from the business for himself. Now, it will be check number 33. You don't write the 31st again because it's still on the same day. With drawings, I would accept cash here because it said cash to check. But usually with drawings, we write the owner's name. Okay, but if you wrote cash, that's a very shaky cash. But if you wrote cash, it will be accepted because I just taught you that cash to check always says cash. Okay, so 500 Rand was taken from the bank account, and the account that it's going to is an owner's equity account called drawings, but there's no drawings column, so put it in the sundry account section. And then lastly, remember to total all of the columns. Okay, so if you just total the columns, you have to total all of them. It's not like with analysis of receipts where you didn't total analysis of receipts. And very easy, there's a way that you can test yourself because every amount goes to the bank column and somewhere else. Okay, if you add all of the other columns together, so wages in this case, plus trading inventory, plus sundry accounts, it must equal the value in the bank column. If it's not equal, then you made a mistake. Then you have to quickly go back and fix your mistake. That's the CPJ. Okay, now go and do exercise 21, 22, 23 and see if you are able to do this by yourself.